Weird science
is the revolution.
Green Lantern number 12, written by Jeremy Adams with art by Monaco, Romeo Fajardo Jr., and Dave Sharp. And we continue our idea of Hal Jordan getting the idea himself about the United Federation of Planets. Hey, up to stuff, they're all Durlans now, but what are we going to do? Because now we have to fight everybody. But it's so weird because we've set up all these ideas about how you have this anti-ring technology that can shut down anybody's ring, except for Hal Jordan's. And for some reason, the fight that goes on with Joe Mullins and Simon Baz and Hal, nobody shuts down a ring the entire time. And
Eric,
I'm like,
that guy, when he was singing,
that
guy said Cosmos. And it made me giggle. The Cosmos. There's always something that drives you nuts of those things. But yeah, and actually, the first time I read it, I was more concentrating on just, okay, look at this fight going on. Second time I read it, I'm like, wait a second. Why aren't they turning off the other rings as they have? Very, very odd. Maybe they could have done something with what happens with Kyle Rayner in this, where he kind of explodes, and maybe that shockwave could have prevented him to do it, but you didn't do anything, and it's very odd. That was one of the biggest things, was to be able to shut down the rings, obviously, and then when you reveal that, hey, we're all Durlans, you're obviously going to shut them down then, because you are, doing your deal, and you've been exposed, and they don't do it, which was very, very odd. And like I said about Kyle Rayner before that, he's been kind of crying in the corner, like Eric Shea. At least that's what Jess says. And Kyle's there, and the emotional spectrum, because of his connection to all of it, and being a White Lantern at one point, that's what we're getting, is what we think. And I still think this whole thing, be all end all, he becomes a White Lantern, at least for, a bit, and maybe the energy explodes out of him or whatnot. But when you end up having this, and they're like, hey, we're going to take him in, we're taking him in, because now the jig is up, and gone, Eric. And so when they end up having this, he kind of goes a little wonky. He ends up putting up his arm, and boom. And the rings even disappear off these guys, including also some cool abs that one guy has as he's laying there. Some cool abs? It's funny, too, because I explained to you, I think, yesterday that the idea was he blew their clothes off, which sounded sexy. It was more of me trying to be sexy than actually saying.
But he blew the uniforms off,
which makes sense. Well, the thing that's funny about this is that that's almost a given, being that the construct is usually the clothes, the uniforms usually, and this is something that kind of drives us crazy sometimes. Some writers do it, some writers don't. So having them blow the rings off, and I mean, he blew those rings off really hard, down on his knees, Eric, and you end up where, of course, then it would take off the uniforms, but I think that was more of an oomph to say it, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, is because you have this going on where they're going to take Kyle Rayner in now that they found where the, I was going to say refugees, but where the resistance are being, kept hidden. They're going to take Kyle Rayner in, and he puts his hand up to say, stop! And when he blasts this energy out there, it's not a green energy. It looks like a blinding white energy. So is he already, because he's still in the Green Lantern uniform the entire time, but this blinding white energy, I'm like, you can kind of say maybe with the hints it's a bluish, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. But
no, I think it's
white energy, I'm like, it just seems weird to be able to shoot that, because maybe previously, when he had his original ring, which he originally, went through the process to become a White Lantern because it was a different kind of ring, that would make sense. But this is just a new ring that he got after his last one was destroyed. So I don't obviously he has a connection for the way he's feeling. It just seems weird to be able to access that through the Green Lantern ring and still just maintain the Green Lantern status quo.
I think that maybe Jeremy Adams is using a thing because of how he's kind of, going a little crazy because of it. I think that the emotions are kind of tapping into him himself. It is very odd. Like you said, the idea of how would this be with the ring and whatnot. But when the emotions and having the batteries down, having these, I don't know if we're going to get into so deep deal of the entities and things and whatnot. But I think that him being near that ball of crazy emotional spectrum energy that they have here, with the whole play, is that effect? But it seems more like this is going to be almost like how we say where Hal makes his ring out of pure energy. I do think that what's happening is he's being affected by pure emotional spectrum, if that makes sense, and that when he does
that's one of those things, too. We haven't seen in a long time the idea of the White Lantern entity, the avatar of it, where, whenever we saw it before in, the end of Blackest Night or Brightest Day, that entity goes into you become a White Lantern. He did it on his own. We haven't seen the entity in a long time. Could it be along the lines of the 90s? Well, that's the thing, is it along the lines of a 90s Parallax, when Parallax entered Hal Jordan, which we never knew back in the day till later. He wasn't a, Yellow Lantern right there. It wasn't showing itself. He'd have still used the power of the Green Lantern, light. but it could just be in him and he doesn't know it, hiding dormant now that he's been exposed on Earth.
And that would be a cooler deal. And you say that, we've been talking about the idea of the emotional spectrum. It's wonky. And then you have the power batteries being destroyed, but you have the emotional energy here. I almost want, and I think that at one point you have been saying, what's going on with the entities? Why aren't we seeing that? I kind of wish that somehow they included the idea of having them captured as well.
Because I don't know how we're playing the continuity anymore, because in the New 52, we had Kyle as the White Lantern take all those entities and put them beyond the source wall to reignite or refuel the emotional spectrum reservoir. So it seemed like they were pretty much in there and gone from our universe. And we haven't seen them since, for the most part.
But then the source wall had issues since
the source wall's gone.
That's what I'm saying. And maybe I don't know how big Jeremy Adams is going to go with it, but even you talking about that and the source wall being gone and things like that they may, and again, that dormancy of maybe the White Lantern entity in that, it would work for me. I mean, I don't think it's that much of a jump to do it. I do want to see what happens. I hope it's just not, he was one before and he kind of feels it. Like, I hope that we do have an explanation that ends up being more clever than just saying, oh, he's a White Lantern again, that he was before, and he can do that. But that's cool, and it really does step up Kyle if you end up having that. And maybe
you don't need to step up Kyle. He's always been there. This have been featured.
I say
his ass
step
all
up.
Stepped
you
up.
Say that. When was the last time we had a really big Kyle book? I mean, really?
That's
Omega
the thing,
Man?
Jim. I wouldn't even call that a big Kyle book in my mind. But the idea is, no matter if he's not featured, he's still Kyle Rayner out there, always being that high up. You don't need to step. There's nowhere else for him to step because he's that high up.
This guy, I need his step so I can put at least my TV on it. I need to get to the top rung of my...
He's the greatest Green Lantern. I don't care what everybody says. Well,
still, one of the big things, and I had talked to people, and I mentioned, I believe, when I was doing our Patreon Blackest Night podcast, me and Matt Razor were doing our Crisis Event podcast. And I talked about our shirt of the day, and that kind of got into the idea of you being a Kyle Rayner fan, and also them being the New Guardians. And that shirt was one of your favorites. And with the batteries down, with this, if Kyle ends up becoming a White Lantern by the end of this, you could even think of him going around trying to restore the batteries and gathering up the Skittle Lanterns again and having the return of all the Spectrums, maybe getting a New Guardians book, which I would like. I would think that that's really cool because we're not getting a lot of the Lantern Corps, even the Green Lantern Corps. But
the top thing he needs to do is bring back the Blue Lantern Corps, because supposedly, when we have Razor that was a part of this, they have been out there, even though before this series came out, all of them had been gone except for Saint Walk, and the idea was we have to come up with a way to do this, and that's what broke Kyle's White Lantern ring previously, was trying to do this. So hopefully we can get back to the idea of reigniting the Blue Lantern Corps and making that a thing again, because it's honestly, I actually think the Indigo Tribe might be the lamest Corps, but then the Blue Lantern Corps. I like the Blue Lantern Corps, but there's just not a lot to them.
Well, this is the funny. First off, if you like to hear, I love they just did, the episode that we just did with Blackest Night is where the Skittle Lanterns all join together, and you have Knock going, they're all doing my brightest day, but you have that going on, and then you get to the Indigo Tribe,
Indigo
which is
one.
Knock, nuke, knock, knock, nuke. I'm like, great. That was awesome.
Because that's what the Witch Doctor said.
Yeah, the Indigo Tribe, they could go. But also, you would think where you have Carol, who in this issue appears to be the last of the Star Sapphires, and maybe you will get that. It
almost seems like she's been given a ring like Kyle was back in the day when the Green Lantern Corps was compromised by Parallax.
And so maybe you could have a team book or a backup in this Green Lantern book of the one remaining of each, like you said, when Razor even mentioned the Blue Lanterns and all that sort of thing.
We should still have Saint Walker out there.
I really want Saint Walker back. That'd be so great. That elephant, he's done, right? He blew up. I like that guy too. Remember that guy?
I'm pretty sure he was killed by the Reach.
Yeah, I believe he was killed. So when you have this going on, I think that in the book itself, so funny in the first couple pages where Kyle just does this, but then kind of passes out, probably the most important thing in the entire book. And I think that it's something that a lot of people kind of push by to get to the rest of just a fight. And the fight just doesn't feel right because they're not shutting down the other lanterns.
They're not shutting down the rings.
Weird.
I'm immediately pissed off because we went into the United Federation of Planets, head office, the council meeting before we learned they were Durlans. Before Hal Jordan's like, hey, Joe Moe and Seven Bass, before we do this, I have rings that can't be shut down on Earth that are just made specially for you. Why don't we go there first before we do anything? But no, he freaking doesn't say a goddamn thing. They go in there, it doesn't matter, but they still get their asses kicked to the point where Hal Jordan says, I can't do nothing for these guys. I better get out of here.
But it's so weird because it almost feels like Jeremy Adams wants to extend the fight. He wants to be able to name the lanterns that are with him. Like, oh man, Simon Bass, he's trying, but he's not doing. Oh my God, you have Joe.
I got to help her. It's disappointing that Simon Bass is using guns as a construct when the whole idea was, in case his ring would fail, he always had that sidearm on his hip that he would use. But just using guns as a construct, it's just it's not that cool.
I really do like Jeremy Adams. I think he's a good writer. I think that's a huge misplay. And somehow I think he might not have read a lot of Simon and saw the progression of what happened even when in Gotham with Batman and things like that, even
Put
later
the gun
on.
Down,
the gun deal. But we actually always liked Simon with the idea of having the gun because he couldn't. And until he did put those guns down, it was because he was afraid that the ring would fail, that he wouldn't be able to trust it.
I still like the idea of him keeping a gun on his side just in case.
I'd even like it if they had it and Batman said to him now, like, why do you have that? And he's like, it's not loaded. I like the feel of it. I like the hit feel.
No, it's loaded.
And then he shoots Batman. No, but the gun constructs, I thought that was a misplay 100%, but also the misplay of not having the ring shut down and then maybe Hal trying to save his compadres here by them not having rings, but it's the battle to extend it. And you have Theros who at that point, really does think what the hell's going on with this ring he has? I thought that I shut down all the stuff. I have to figure this out. He has his own nifty little ring. Eric, I don't know if you like that. It's okay. But while the battle looks really bad, and even when Hal busts out and the Unseeing are there, and they want to know what the hell's going on as well, and it points to the idea, did the Guardians have another battery? Were they smart enough to do this? Were they doing that? They were. And Hal's I don't like these guys. And luckily, because he starts getting the crap kicked out of him. Just like a gun on
your hip, just in case.
Yeah. He starts getting the crap kicked out of him, and then everything gets
Which is a big deal to me, though, because when Hal's trying to escape and the Unseeing show up, the psychics of the United Federation of Planets,
I never thought of them being that tough, right? I just thought they were kind of
Even the idea of them showing up feels weird, because I always feel like they should be in Minority Report with those psychics that are always just in that room, just televising the future to Theros and shit like that. Because the last time we saw them, Jessica Cruz was going to their chamber, and we haven't seen her since. And with them showing up, people what happened to Jessica Cruz? And
I was waiting to see what happened with Jessica in this, and she must be captured. It would seem. I would guess where they're trying to, and you have Salak and them, they picked up Kyle and they're trying to get away. Maybe Jessica is somewhere and can help them as well. But you end up where Hal's getting the crap kicked out of him, and all of a sudden things get purple, and there is Carol Ferris as a Star Sapphire, something that a lot of people have been wanting.
Which I wish the idea that we have with the Star Sapphires, where they have an emotional tether to the person that they love, where they can teleport to them immediately. And I wanted to see that talked about because, in the previous issue, she was obviously
and it almost feels like that's what happens, though, right? But they don't say it.
The thing is, in my mind, they do, but it almost feels like they tethered away to get away instead of just opening a warp hole and going, or a wormhole and going. But the idea of that, she was up or down the idea if she was going to get married to her fiance previously. So obviously there was do I love him? Do I want to get married? Yes, I do, because that's what I should do. I'm a grown-ass woman. This is what grown-ass women do. They've moved past their childhood sweethearts, and they freaking find a man who's reliable. And then that ring shows up. Bam! I'm like, okay, the wedding's up. I'm like, that poor guy, because she is immediately here for Hal Jordan.
And then I was thinking, well, it is the Star Sapphire ring. Is it somewhere along the lines that it's kind of influencing her to be this? I feel bad for him. Now, that's the thing is you've had that previously, but it seems like Carol for a long time has been able to overcome that, the obstacle of the Predator taking her over. Yeah, it's just so odd because that guy, and I'm telling you, I'm even going, do you remember his name? This is the thing about
the guy is never stuck in my name at all. His name is Fiance.
Yeah, well, about this, I don't think many people would remember his name.
Ben?
I believe it might be Nathan.
Nate? Good old Nate Dogg?
Maybe, Nate Dogg. The weird part of this, though, is the idea that poor guy did nothing wrong. This is not, I even said when we were doing our different things this week, this is not a Paul over at Amazing Spider-Man situation, the worst character ever, and really just nonsense. This guy was, in fact, with Carol. Carol lost everything because of Hal and all the shit that went down. He's like, don't worry, I'll figure it out. He's so nice. I have a feeling the guy's so nice that he's just pure out simp, and he's going to still be like, oh, can I be the best man at your guy's wedding? Like, the guy's too nice.
You're stopping.
And his biggest thing his biggest fault was he was predictable, nice, and reliable. That's the 3 worst things that happened.
He wasn't a bad boy.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't a bad boy. I do like that when Carol does show up, just as a little wink, wink, she does seem to use a construct of that car.
Yeah, his name is Nathan.
Okay. Hal and Carol went to Vegas back in the day when they were kids. It seems like that car that she uses, that same car. I like where the principal is somehow still upset because his car's ruined, even though it was a construct. But it comes busting through, and she takes him back. Now, it makes sense overall to go back to Earth in a way that Hal's going to be able to go get those other rings. Doesn't make sense to me to go back to Earth and anything going on. Also, I would love to say that she did tether Boom and went because there's still that kind of, quarantine going on the planet. I don't know how she got out, in, whatnot.
And who knows what that quarantine means, though?
Well, I'm telling you, the idea of it is, it was not letting people go through. They were trying to sneak through at points. And
Sinestro was able to go through. He just needed to have a rage lantern.
But he needed to get, full. Yeah, even then, though, I think it would have been something that would alert somebody, but they didn't seem alerted. It's just, I think that whole...
That barrier is bullshit.
That whole barrier is bullshit. It's bullshit. It's been bullshit from day one. And it has been weird things. Like, at first, it felt like it was tuning into, the frequency of the Green Lanterns. And the ring couldn't go. But Hal didn't have... And then you have Superman and Lobo sneaking out on Space Hogs. And then you have... It's so weird. So I don't get too caught up into it. But I think it would have alerted them. But also, I like the idea of the tether. Boom, wormhole, portal thing opens. She comes out and says, oh, where am I? Oh God, I gotta help.
Maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, because the thing is, I understand the idea of teleportation tether to the one you love. I just don't understand the way you get back. I don't remember that being a thing previously. And maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't remember.
And she got there real quick. She had to get there real quick. So I assume that tether, boom, bam, and there you go. Even that could have been something where it's almost like a Princess Bride type thing. Your true love. You ended up opening up for that, and she realizes even through
that. But I also
okay.
truly love Hal's trailer that I teleport back to, because his ass needs to get into his gross bed.
But it's also weird because they go back, and she's like, all right, we have to find a place. And she kind of does go through the port, but it's up above Earth. And then she comes down, lands on the trailer, and then starts talking shit. When is Hal ever going to have milk that is anything new? Or, that's just common, the whole deal. I actually thought it was going to be that he didn't have electric anymore. Remember in the New 52 when he went and he had decided, hey, I don't have a ring, I'm regular. And he just had eviction notices and bills and things like that. But Daryl's just pissed. You have these lanterns that were supposed to... Now, he was there in this whole deal of this battle, but he sees them, and this guy's such a jerk, he's going to have Fight Club. And he says, you guys all blew it, so I'm going to turn you into Rage Red Lanterns, and you can fight it out, and whoever wins.
Whoever survives gets to continue.
Too. It's like the idea, you 3, you're the worst. You guys are pathetic, but maybe the guy who could beat up or kill the other 2, I'm okay with you. He still failed. I mean, they all failed.
It's a weird thing to switch to a Red Lantern and then switch to something else that's not a Blue Lantern immediately to cure that whole idea of the heart not being there anymore or being stopped because of the rage. So, but just look at these guys. When they're hit with the Red Lantern energy and turn into Red Lanterns, what do? They rage out and just start fighting each other because they're not dipped into crazy blood pools that calm their asses down. They have to maintain that rage or the ring will leave them. Just remember that later on when we hit Super Sons.
Yeah.
Or Sinister Sons, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sinister Sons. Again, the thing that you're saying
is... I've never seen a happier Red Lantern.
I don't think that they're even playing some of these rules
tickled.
Anymore. I actually tickled pink or tickled red, Eric, if you know what I mean. So I think that what has happened, and we talk, and this is no shade on Jeremy Adams. I think that he does a great job, and I do think he looks into things. But we're going to get to a point where we're going to get Sam Humphrey shit back here. If we end up having the full spectrum and we get a Red Lantern book or we get a Blue Lantern, you're going to end up where it's been so long and nobody wants to go real far back to get any info. We're going to have some wacky shit. We're going to have
because
the
if
idea.
I see willpower spiking, I'm going to lose it.
Shit like that. And there was no excuse for that. Bad writing. But you have this one guy, and I think of him as okay, you're the top loser. He still failed. And seriously, if that squid guy would have won, that would have been hilarious. Look at that guy. What is he going to do? What is he, slapping people? He ended up getting all upset, right?
He's just an alien. I am sure he's very formidable like all the other lanterns.
No, actually, what I was going to tell you is this almost plays the idea, because there is no real, usually what you'll have is these three guys come in. Theros says, hey, you guys suck, kills them all. I think that there might be a play here that they don't have a ton of people left, even though the universe is their oyster, whatever, you can grab on. But I think that they're light in the numbers because of what's been happening lately, I guess. And so one is going to survive. Not that squid guy. He's not formidable. He's nonsense. The guy was a barista like 2 weeks ago on this planet. Got a ring.
You can overcome great fear.
So,
especially when people come in to yell about their order.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he spells it wrong. They get upset. You end up where then Theros is like, I got to go find Hal Jordan. And the way to do it is to call Amanda Waller. And it's kind of, again, some people have been saying that Amanda Waller being pushed so much for this absolute power that a lot of people, like an Etrigan, are like bowing to her. That was a little odd. We thought that at that point that maybe, I guess that was the Titans book, where we thought maybe his envoy would go and talk to. Yeah, Trigon, I'm sorry.
I'm sitting there like Etrigan.
Yeah, no, Trigon, okay. The deal, when he was kind of down on one knee, basically, saying, please. It does start with this, where there's like, please. I wish this was like animated. He's like, please, because he's such this, evil guy. But he does by the end tell her, listen, you better watch your P's and Q's, Waller. But, you play that he says, Hal Jordan's on Earth. I need you to go find him. And she says, him on Earth would cause me some problems as well. So obviously she's going to do that. We see it by the end very quickly that she's pretty pissed off. But again, I like that this is the tie-in. And next issue, we hit absolute power, and it's going to be in this, so it makes sense. Some of the things
absolute power in Green Lantern means that King Shark's calling for his ass. What will look like. I'm going to say, that's the thing, is I'm just going to say they're Task Force 7 soldiers. We know that Task Force 7 is going to be a thing, but I don't fully understand. Are these just the soldiers of Task Force 7 in these new outfits, do you think?
I guess, or maybe, we had when they have each year, they used to at least, where they had the draft for WWE.
Uh-huh.
I think that what ended up happening is like Crossbones or something over here, or maybe Taskmaster. It does look kind of weird with the whole deal, but we'll see. I think that's what they are.
Because they've been promoting these soldier uniforms for a while in different issues.
Yeah,
I just never knew what they were assigned. If this is a Bureau of Sovereignty thing, we've been pushing the Task Force 7 idea. Like, is that just a new Suicide Squad? We know that that's still going to be a thing. Or is this itself just Task Force 7?
I actually, I think that what I would say is the masked guys, those dudes, Taskmasters, they are probably full out just Sovereignty Bureau guys. And then you have the, King Shark in there where they're being sent together. I would have maybe got some bigger hitters for it, especially because it's a Green Lantern, but, I'm not throwing shit at King Shark or anything. Yeah. But still, I don't know that you're going to expect him to be able to bring him in, but they're going to end up fighting.
King Shark's going to try.
Yeah, it seems odd. They're going to make a construct of a fishbowl, and he's going to be stuck. That's what I do. Just to throw shade at him, right? Or would you attack King Shark with a construct of another shark?
I think I just make a barrier to think things through for a little while.
You wouldn't go like almost like Pepe Le Pew or like a Looney Tunes where you make a female shark that's
make a sexy shark?
Yeah, a sexy shark is like walking and shaking, don't break it. And as it goes, he's doing the cat calls, the shark calls, and he goes off. Says things like, I smell blood in the water or something.
I was just watching a compilation of like the Dorkly videos at YouTube where they had those like, computer animated shorts they used to do. But it was all about the Justice League. And at one point, Darkseid shows up. He has everybody down except for Hal Jordan, Green Lantern. And Green Lantern's like, all right, it's up to me now. And he just makes a sexy naked woman. You like that, Darkseid? She's all yours for like 15 minutes. You just leave the Earth alone. Hey, what are you doing? And like,
did it work?
Thing. Here's a naked man for you. Okay, that's your thing. Go for it, buddy. Like, no, what are you doing? This is not how I want things. And then all of a sudden, like, you want them to dance for you, Darkseid? And all of a sudden, Batman gets up, starts dancing with him. Shut up! I need this.
Oh, this is pretty good. I do say that King Shark looks like those guys that go to the gym and have those big igloo cooler things of water and stuff. Look at him with the work boots and those freaking jeans. He's wearing jeans there.
I think that's just his feet.
I think they're boots, and he's definitely wearing jeans, though. I can see the buckle. He's a buttonfly guy, too, like Rob Liefeld. So he's got that going on, at least. But
you say that. I don't see a buttonfly at all. I see one button for the top and then a fly.
There's the button there. Boom, buttonfly. Who knows, Eric? I'll have to ask whoever did the art here. Who was it on art? I'll have to ask him. That's the only thing that I'm concerned of. Is that buttonfly jeans for the King Shark? I get the return response. The fuck are you talking about? I'm like, all right. That is a no for me. But that ends the issue. It ends it in I don't know. The idea that it's absolute power begins, okay. But with everything going on, to have King Shark show up at the trailer, not exactly the biggest of cliffhangers, but it works out. It works out, and there's some things to be intrigued about, mostly with Kyle Rayner, and maybe what old Nate Dogg. What's Nate Dogg going to do? He's still there in Vegas. Do you think he just marries a showgirl who's taking advantage of him? Right?
I think he just goes home and lives his best life because he's Nate.
Nate, what happened if I'm just asking you. This is. What happened if he goes off and figures, I have to be a bad boy, and he thinks his version of a bad boy, which would be my version, and he's doing all these crazy things. He's almost like at the end of Grease with Sandy. That's the bad boy version. He's trying to smoke, but he can't. Oh, it'd be great. It'd be great. Nate Dogg.
Back in the day, this would have meant that he had to become a villain against Hal Jordan, who stole his love and stuff like that. So I don't think that will be the case because it just kind of seems a little forced at the time.
How about if he thinks he has to do that, but he's just too nice a guy, and it doesn't work out? Would that be funny? And he goes by Nate Dogg, or do we never see him again?
I'm just trying to think about how he would try to go about being a villain. Obviously, I don't think this is going to happen. I'm the new Sonar. And he just has gigantic speakers on his shoulder.
Just that. But he's real lame about it because he's so nice, like that. And they're and everybody's I can't hear. He's let me turn that down a little. I'm sorry, everybody.
It was up to 11. My bad.
Or Carol says, you know what? I feel bad for Nate, and she says, and I like the line. I was a couple words away from doing it. I think those were I do, Eric. But you end up where she's I feel bad for him. Can he be the flower girl? Would you like that?
No, I wouldn't like that. Nobody would like that.
How about if Chip? Would Chip be the flower girl? Would you allow that? Would that be good?
I'm trying to remember if Chip's still alive. I haven't seen Chip in a long time.
Who knows if Chip is alive? That carrot guy. That carrot guy's there.
No, Chip is dead, but Badge is alive.
Yeah, Badge is alive. I like
Chip died
better.
in Mosaic, I believe.
I like Chip better. Right. I like when he goes around, they call him Chocolate Chip. That was pretty cool. I don't think
you've ever read Chip before in your life.
I think my medicine's wearing off, Eric. I'm losing it. I'm losing my credibility. I don't think I had it before, but we do have a backup.
Sassy.
You want to go into the backup?
Sure do. We have a Guy Gardner backup with The Phobo, written by Jeremy Adams, with art by Kevin McGuire, Rosemary Cheatham, and Dave Sharp. And now that The Phobo and Guy Gardner have been teleported back to the bottled city of Zarnia, Guy Gardner has to figure out how to live his life here because he can't get out for whatever reason, and he's shrunken down, so they've made him the mailman of the bottled city of Zarnia, and he's just going around delivering mail until he can figure a way out of this. And it's just such a weird idea because we had the Phobo come to him, hey, Guy, I figured out a way in. I just need your help cracking a safe once we get there. So we go to the place, we paint up Guy's face to make him look like a Zarnian. Nobody's buying it. It's just there to make him look like a juggalo, I guess.
Yeah.
And when we get there, it's hey, you broke into the safe. There's a bunch of stuff here. And then out of nowhere, it's just, hey, here's the Eye of Crota. I bet this will come in handy at some point. Hey, I found that other thing. I'm just what is this part of the story? I don't know what happened here. Obviously, it wasn't huge to begin with. It's just Guy Gardner going off to find Lobo.
I thought it was
going to
be a bit bigger, though, for the whole thing. But now it feels like it's setting up something huge that makes no sense, right?
And again, in my mind, if it sets up something huge, it's the biggest ripoff ever. If Guy Gardner just in a junk heap of a vault room in some planet, bottle city of Zarnia place, finds the Eye of Crota, which we've never seen before. And if that's the big thing that turned the tide, this is bullshit.
When you did The Colorist, did you think of Dewey, Cheatham, and Hal? I did.
I did not.
I did. But I actually thought it was funny with Guy having a job, and he hates it, but everybody loves him. Hey, Guy!
Hey, Guy!
He's Jesus Christ, this sucks. But yeah, when you see that he just suddenly picks up that it's too much. And if it ends up just being a joke, I mean, even if it was one of those where he's oh my God, look at this. I don't need it, and tosses it behind his back as that kind of joke, but he doesn't do that. And I'm is this going to be the way things end at some point that he ends up because if that's the case, it better just be in this book with the United Planets and stuff. And even then it'd be too much. But what if it ends with absolute power where Guy actually destroy and is able to do something huge because he has that and he found it in a trash heap in the bottled city of Zarnia? It makes no sense. So
I just don't get it. And then we're teleported out because Brainiacs needed a, Zarnian attack squad. Guy Gardner, I guess, is a part of that. So now that they're out, they won't be able to get back in because of this thing that Phobo had just found 30 seconds
now they
less.
Can escape. They can end up, they're not going to be sucked back into the bottle, so they can just go and get out of there.
Because he just had this thing.
Yeah, I mean, he said that they were going to look there for it, that they were looking for that play, and hey, it goes through this junk pile. I don't know why it'd be laying in this junk pile like it was, but They kind of went there.
I have the thing to make sure that we can't get teleported back into a bottled city of Zardia from Brainiac's skull ship, just laying around in a bottled city of Zardia. Yeah, that was
and like I said, he knows it was there, so they go there, and I'm like, why would you know it's in a trash heap? And then you go into the trash heap, and it's just in the trash heap, in the safe. Like, somebody's got to clean up that safe, right? I mean, it's a mess. It looks like my recording room. It's my safe house.
It is a very, very lackluster backup to a main issue that I thought was cool at times, especially because Kyle Rayner started things off, kicking ass and taking names like a Kyle Rayner do. But it's just the rest of it's like, nothing feels inspired in Green Lantern right now. And it's very disappointing because you have Hal Jordan, the main character of the book, and he doesn't feel like he's doing
feel like Hal
any of the time. No.
I mean, at one point he was a creeper at the beginning. Now and again, the whole play at the beginning when Hal was like really over the top creeping, and you had poor Nate Dogg and Carol. And I don't think many people do like Carol and Hal together. But really,
people really hate Carol and Kyle together.
But yeah, I was going to mention that with the Omega Men as well again. But when you end up having,
was she in that?
Yeah, I think that they were alluding to that by the end as well.
I thought they left that.
No, I think that they were like talking about that near the end of that series as well. But when you have all this going on, nobody could sit there and say that if Carol got married, that, oh man, that's not right or whatever, because she has been kind of pissed at Hal. Hal isn't reliable. So
she's constantly Kirk Cameron. She's left behind.
Even suddenly going to get him here the way they did, it felt like this was more of a checklist item or the salesman. I don't know. It just felt like it was something to do that. But really, in my mind, Hal being a dupe, going, oh, United Planets, get this. Oh, no, they're Derlin. Like, it was so, and that we knew, not Derlin.
It was a good reveal, too. But
we knew that the United Planets were completely sus.
Oh, and
he didn't seem to be. And he actually was on the deal telling the Lanterns, who had been on the run, that, renegades for all this time, saying to them, no, it'll be fine. I'll go talk to them. And they're like, no, you can't do that. And he does anyway. Then you go and do it.
I'm sure 110% that it's just Lord Theros that's the problem.
So that felt really kind of, but now this issue felt like, okay, oh crap, we got to get back to Earth for absolute power. And then that happens. Maybe this could have been drawn out. Maybe not drawn out a little more, but done in a little better way than it was. But at the end, King Shark, I'm like, really? You send like Amanda Waller. I would think that you're a strategist, but sending King Shark, yeah, there's a lot of these other guys, whatnot. Maybe she's not counting on Carol and Astor Sapphire being there. Pretty crazy, but yeah, I think you sent a lame team to go get a Green Lantern, somebody who you're getting because you say this could really throw a wrench in my works of this whole absolute power.
I think if Carol's not there, that they might stand a chance, because I'm pretty sure that Hal has a concussion. I don't know how his will is going to be
I don't know that she knows. Like, she doesn't seem to know much. Just go get that Green Lantern. Though I do have to say that I did giggle, because it's something that really drives me nuts when you have Theros is like, listen, I kind of look the other way in your House of Brainiac thing. I'm like, what? Like, well, why would they be calling it that in book? And it's so odd. But what would you give as a score?
I would give us a 5.3 out of 10.
Really? You're that low? That is crazy.
What was there? I'm telling you, what in the backup said, man, the score should be raised, and what was in the front up that said, man, this is great?
I'm giving it a 7. I'm not that, I mean, I'm a little more positive. Jeez, can you tell me that it was stupid so we can kind of even the score later on?
Kyle Rayner was the most interesting part of the book.
But I do think, even though it was weird.
1 page 2?
Carol Ferris being a Star Sapphire is huge. We haven't had that in a long time. And
yeah, but that was the cliffhanger last issue.
Well, still, I'm not going to throw it out with the wash water here in the baby air just because we had it.
And I can't say that her powers were used properly.
Weird science
is the revolution.